name is Gill. Today is October 22nd, 2010. I'm visiting with Bill Ryan on the Oklahoma State University campus in Stillwater, Oklahoma. This interview is one of a series of interviews with members of the OSU class of 1960 who are on campus for the 50-year reunion and is part of the O State Stories project of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Well, Bill, welcome back to Oklahoma State University. Have you been back since you were here? Maybe you said 10 years ago for your 43rd
Thank you,
reunion?
Jerry. Yes, my wife and I were back for the 40th anniversary, and there's tremendous changes since that time.
So, and you're living in New York now currently?
We live in Cazenovia, New York, which is just outside of Syracuse, which is upstate New York, if you will. We're about 200 miles northeast of New York City.
You might be running for getting the award for having traveled the furthest to your reunion.
Maybe. But I doubt it.
That's great. So I know you traveled a long ways. Were there some special reasons why you want to come back for your 50-year reunion?
Well, I guess we enjoyed our stay here when I was here back in the late 50s. We had family and a lot of other activities going on over the years that followed, and we were fortunate to get back out here. I guess it was in the year 2000 for our 40th anniversary, and we were very impressed with the campus. My wife had been here for graduation. Very impressed with the people here. At the 40th anniversary, we both were very impressed with the friendliness of the campus. We just wanted to do it again while we're in good health and had the opportunity to do it.
Has it changed a little since you were a student?
I guess. Seemed like there were a lot of fields, as I remember it, around the campus years back, but they're all filled with buildings at this point. It's amazing. It's
grown tremendously. It sure has. What are there some things you're looking forward to most about doing or seeing while you're here on campus?
Well, I can't say there's anything in particular. As I tried to explain to you before, we came out here with a group of guys, probably 10, 12 of us, and we probably got a unique experience from what the typical student might have here. But we had gone to a school in the Binghamton, New York area. Binghamton's in the southern tier of New York State, right near the Pennsylvania border. But there's a school there by the name of Broome Community College, and all of us had gone there, two-year school, technical institute. Some had been in the service, some had not been in the service, but anyway, we started looking around to try to go back to school. And Oklahoma State was one of the schools that gave us the most credit. Schools at that time, as you may recall, were not accredited two-year schools, so if you wanted to go back to school, you pretty much had to start over. But we looked at schools like Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. We looked at Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Arizona State, and they all seemed to give us some credit, those four. Oklahoma State gave us the most credit. So kind of without any great deal of knowledge, other than we had what looked to be pretty good credit, we all decided to come out here. Okay, so unfortunately, I think, in hindsight, when we were here, we pretty much kept to ourselves and treated it like a job. And I mean a job. We were either in class at 8 o'clock or in the library at 8 o'clock, and we worked solid till about 5. We lived off campus the second and third year. Lived at Cordell the first year. And anyway, I guess when we were out here for the 40th anniversary, and we just always enjoy the friendliness of the campus, and everybody just walking down the sidewalk says hello and how you doing and so forth. So I think our experience is different than the typical student here.
Bill, can you tell me a little bit about your group? I mean, how did you have a background before you, or did you meet at the community college, or did you know each other in the military? What was the bond there?
Probably a little both. Okay, probably a little both. I knew some of the guys from the neighborhood I lived in. They had gone to Broome Community College. They called it Broome County Technical Institute at the time, ECTI. And we met the guys who we knew, who were a couple of years older than we were, who had been in the service prior to us. This was in the mid-50s time frame. But I think we knew each other remotely, but we got to know each other the summer before coming out here. And we came out, and we lived in various dorms the first year. Cordell was one. I can't think of another one. So we're...
Y'all made a collective decision to kind of Hey, let's look around where we go. Let's go same place.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Well, I think the credit hours were very influential. You know, nobody wanted to go 4 years,
Right.
and so I think the credit hours were very instrumental in coming out. Okay. Which is another story we'll get to here.
Now, Barry, were you a double E major, electrical engineering major? What was your major?
At Broome Community College, an electrical technology major. Yes, and out here I was electrical engineering major.
Great. So was there did you know of the academic reputation of the university, or did you know anybody at Oklahoma State University other than just
Not
the
really.
credit hour issue?
Not really.
Okay.
No, we did not.
Who was dean of the college at that time? Do you recall?
I'm not sure I can tell you. Dr. Al Nader was the head of the engineering school.
And so you're one of Ruth's boys?
Yes.
Ruth Nader, she was,
They were great to us.
they hosted reunions for years, and
Yes.
Ruth would come over in the alumni association and ask about her boys and
Her
stay in
boys,
contact
that's
with
right.
her. Yeah.
They were very dedicated, I thought.
Yeah.
Very good. There was another professor out there, her name was Virginia Lippert, who's
Virginia Lippert, yes.
Chemistry. I know we took chemistry from her, and she, I think, helped us get off-campus rooming houses from some of her professor friends.
Al, when you were here, I guess you got here just about the time the school was changing its name
That's correct.
from Oklahoma A&M to Oklahoma State,
State,
and from the Aggies to the Cowboys.
right? And Hank
Did-
Iba was still the coach,
Mhm.
basketball.
Was there any hoopla over changing the name? And did you recall students kind of like the name change, or some of them have, didn't want to change it?
I think it was a little of both, depending upon their backgrounds, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There was always that rivalry with the Oklahoma University.
Mm-hmm.
So in some respects, I think some students like to change to Oklahoma State.
You talking about being a serious student? Did you watch any of the athletic events, wrestling or football
Oh,
or
yes.
basketball?
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
We were, that's about the only thing we did for entertainment. So
Did
the
you have-
wrestling, the basketball, the football.
So students could get in free in those days, and then you had the odd even ID for basketball and wrestling?
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yeah. I don't recall the details on that, but I do remember that odd even
Yeah.
notation there.
Yeah, okay. Bill, back again, kind of your academic background, you're talking about Dr. Nader and being electrical engineering. The other professors you remember that were especially influential in your academic development?
Yeah, but I can't come up with their names. I was thinking about that
Yeah.
earlier
It's
today.
been a few years ago.
I can't come up with their names, I'm
That's
sorry
okay.
to say.
What buildings were most of your classes held in?
Say it again, Jerry?
The classes, what buildings were they in? Do you recall?
There was an engineering building. It was I think it was to the side of the library.
Mhm.
As you look at the library, I think it was off to the right
Right
side.
to the east of it.
Yes. And I think we had most all our classes there. We took a speech class over here by Old Central somewheres, and there was a retired colonel from this army that taught the class,
Mhm.
but I don't remember his name either.
Maybe in Morrill Hall, perhaps?
Could be, yes. Yeah.
Somewhere? Okay.
I tell you, my memory is not doing me any favors.
Okay. But did so you didn't know a lot about perhaps the academic reputation of Oklahoma State, but looking back after you graduated, was your degree helpful in your career? Did you
Absolutely.
get a good preparation?
Absolutely. I think we got a tremendous education here. One thing I remember, excuse me, when we first came out, somebody told us that the parking meter had been designed here, developed here.
Yes.
Okay. But I think it was a great experience for us at Oklahoma State. I don't want to say that I made the point that we kind of kept to ourselves. I don't want to make that the centerpiece of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I think, the fact that some had military background and some were a little bit older, maybe a couple of years older than the regular student. And we worked extremely hard. When I look at when our kids went to school, or some of the kids going to school now, I probably shouldn't say it, but I tend to think it's more of a social experience. And I just recall it as working extremely hard.
Well, you talked about living in, was it Cordell Hall, your first year here?
First year here, yes.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember about your Cordell Hall experience?
Not a great deal.
You remember you mentioned about the residence hall, your room, how it was set up, or?
There's two of us. One of the guys was from a guy by the name of John Sense, who I went to Broome Tech with. He's from our hometown. We lived together. There was a guy from Texas who lived across the hall from us. Another guy from Venezuela who was across the hall. good group of guys. It was just a male dorm. I don't know what it is now.
Was there any cultural shocks for you? I mean, coming from upstate New York to Oklahoma, did you learn to say y'all and howdy and things
Learn
like
to say
that?
howdy. I don't know if we ever learned to say y'all, but we learned to say howdy. And that always stuck with us. Remember we talked about that however, that's the welcome. I don't know if it still is or not, but
It still is.
that's the welcome, and that's so genuine.
Hi, hello, howdy.
I think it's, I keep wanting to say that some of the things that were unique about this experience is just the different people, the way that people react to you. And on the East Coast, it can be a little cold if you're down in New York City, not so much if you're in upstate New York, but here it's very, very open. It's just what you see is what you get. Everybody's open and friendly.
Didn't make sense to make fun of your Yankee accent, huh?
No. But I do remember, for whatever reason, we wore khakis, khaki pants, and buck shoes. So we were out of line there and didn't know it, I guess. Okay. But anyway, that was it.
Well, the engineers didn't worry about that too much.
They didn't worry about anything. You had your slide rule on your side, and that was it.
That's right. The slide rule was the big deal. You tell
That was a big
engineering
deal.
major because I had that on the hooked on the belt and the slide rule, right?
It was about a 12-inch or 14-inch rule, and I remember getting a small one for my senior year, and that was a big deal. You put it in your coat pocket, about a 6-inch rule.
Oh my God.
Of course, the eyes were a lot better then too.
So you kind of talked about being a pretty serious student, but were there any residence hall activities you recall, socials, activities, dances, anything?
Not really.
Okay.
No, not really.
So now that next year, then you moved off campus.
Yes.
Where did you live? Do you recall?
Well, I was trying to think. We were over there yesterday, last evening, and I can't think of the street. It's Mrs. Lippert had a friend who, or Miss Lippert had a friend who had a home. She was a professor friend, had a home, and it runs parallel to Main Street, and it's one or two the other side of Main Street. Okay. And we stayed there. We were over in the neighborhood yesterday trying to figure out which house it was.
Well, did you have several of your buddies stay in?
The four of us stayed together.
Four of us stayed there.
And then there was a couple other guys in another home and several other guys in another home. We were kind of spread around, but four of us stayed together for the next 2 years.
Did you walk to class? Did any of your
yes.
group have a car? Anybody in out of the group?
No. We had a car to come out here with it. A guy by the name of Krista told us just got out of the Navy and he had a car, and 3 of us came out with all our belongings in one car.
Well, what was the model and make of car? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. It was a 1957 Plymouth. Had a push-button thing on the left-hand side of the steering wheel.
Oh.
Okay.
Pretty cool. See,
Pretty
you're talking
cool.
a nice car. Yeah.
We each had a trunk. It wasn't very big. It wasn't a very big trunk, but 3 trunks fit in the back of his trunk, and that was it.
Yeah.
I look at the kids going to school now. They seem to go in vans and trailers and everything else, but it was just clothes and what you had on your back, I guess.
That's good. Well, how did you get back home very often? I mean, to
Christmas time.
Christmas, so
Christmas
like
time.
once a year?
Once a year.
Wow.
Once a year. Yeah. Well, it was about 1,500 miles. It was about a 24-hour drive.
Did you drive in the car you're describing, or?
We did. Drove right through though. When we started, you got behind the wheel, you drove a tank of gas, and you stopped and took care of all your needs and sandwich or whatever, and kept going.
Changed drivers and went on.
Changed drivers to the next tank of gas. I mean,
How
in
many-
hindsight, it's pretty scary, but that's what we did.
How many hours did it take to get back?
24 hours.
You had it 24 hours straight?
24 hours,
Wow. You were moving right along.
We were
weren't you?
hauling, yeah.
That's great.
Well, there's some nice roads out this way. Route 66 and the Will Rogers Turnpike, and straight as an arrow. So we made good time till we got up around Pittsburgh, and then had to cut through the back roads. That was our first year off campus. The second year, again, Miss Lippert got us a home right across the street from here, in the corner of University and Hester. And it's still there, which I find it hard to believe. It looks like there's students living in it now. But the 4 of us lived in that, downstairs of that house, and there was a Dr. Joe, somebody who was a doctor of chemistry, who lived upstairs. But that was convenient because we skipped
Right
across the street to school, so that was good.
For wintertime, it was really nice, but it didn't have too far to go.
Very nice, very nice.
Was there any friend other than the New York crew that came with you? Did you meet some other people in your experience here have you maintained any of those relationships?
Not really, Jerry, which I feel bad about right now. Okay, we should have done that. We should have branched out and taken advantage of the local people. I don't mean taken advantage of, but interfaced with and try to get more out of it. I knew a few people from the Newman Club It's a church over
Catholic
the
Study Center.
Women Club. And I can't tell you any names at this point in time, but no, we didn't maintain any long-time relationships. Didn't have any, I guess. Which, as I say, that's probably my one regret here, that we didn't take the time to interface better. The class, as I remember, was made up of a lot of Air Force guys, married, still in the service, Air Force guys. And if there were 20, 25 in a class, there'd be 10 or 12 or 15 Air Force guys. And they were very, what's the word, very mature, very serious, okay? So they kept the curves very high. So we worked to keep up with it, okay? And I think that had a factor on how much time do we have for social life.
And I think you'd indicated on time earlier that you were taking 17, 18, 19 hours of engineering.
We were taking 18, 19, 20 hours of engineering, yeah.
That's a lot of hours.
A lot of hours. We originally thought that we could finish in 2 years. We came out here with thought we could finish in 2 years. It was probably October, November of our second year, we first met with a guidance counselor. Now maybe that was our fault, but that's as I recall, that's the first time we met with a guidance counselor. And what we found out was that the 60 credit hours that we had, about 30 of those credit hours matched up with required courses. And the other 30 hours we got credit for, but they didn't help with the engineering degree.
Yeah, they accept them as hours, but not
yes.
in your curriculum,
Exactly.
your major. Okay.
And we didn't know that. So we were not happy campers probably about the fall of the second year out here. That would be the fall of '58, I guess. And because it looked like we had to go 3 years, okay? Turned out to get our bachelor's degree, we needed about 2.5 years. But everybody stayed on and took graduate courses for the third year. And then we left at the end of the third year. Now, most all of us, I was on an educational leave from IBM.
Okay.
Between Broome Tech and Oklahoma State, I worked a couple of years at IBM. That was true for several others. Some of the guys who'd been in the service, they'd also worked at GE or something called Link Simulators or Bendix. So there were industry companies back in our area that people had worked for, and I don't know if everybody, but most everybody was on some type of an educational leave. So when we finished up, for the most part, I think we went back to those respective companies.
Kind of back to your experience with D. What do you remember about homecoming? Anything you recall? Was homecoming a pretty big deal back in your time?
It was. I remember the walk around and the very impressive house decorations. And, we saw the work on them again last night, and when we were out here 10 years ago, and it just boggles my mind the time and effort that goes in those things. You know, they had the lights on last night, and the lifts, and the people doing welding, and I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. We haven't had a chance to look at them yet today, but it was very similar back then too. It just
were the floats pretty big in that day on the parade? Because normally it seems like in recent years the house decks have gotten larger, floats perhaps a little smaller, but were floats a big deal?
Well, they were to us, I guess. Okay, I'd be hard pressed to compare this year versus 50 years ago, but the whole thing was impressive 50 years ago. We've spoken that many times about what a great job they do here with the homecoming. I think 10 years ago, we heard that there was the biggest homecoming in the country.
America's greatest homecoming celebration.
Yes.
It received several national awards and recognition.
It's unbelievable. Very impressive.
Speaking of homecoming activities, again, alluding, I know you were focused on those studies, but were there any other activities, organizations at all, particularly within the college, that you participated in? College honorary organizations, other things?
There was an IEEE group, I believe. It was an engineering organization. We participated in that fairly heavily at the time. In the Newman Club, that's what I recall. I was not in an honor society. I missed that by a fraction, but a couple of guys I lived with were in that. But I don't think that consumed a whole lot of time. But, IEEE, I think, was a big one. Was
Engineering Week pretty big back then? With a sort of emphasis week for engineering.
I don't recall it, Jerry. I don't recall it. It was all, for the most part, it was all male. I think we had 2 ladies in the class, and everything else was male in engineering. And I think that was not only electrical engineering, but I think several of the other engineerings as well.
So there were very few women.
Very few women
in classes.
Very
Which
few.
did you know that now there's more entering freshman classes, and there's more women in engineering majors
right?
than men now.
Is that right?
Interesting.
Very interesting. Well, the two that were there were extremely competitive. They really stood their own.
Any OSU traditions? We were laughing earlier about learning how to say howdy as a New Yorker, but they had a howdy week, was the orientation week. Of course, that was primarily for freshmen, but and for transfer students. Other activities. Any traditions you remember here?
I can't say I do. I was telling Kathy about it last night about the howdy when we first hit the campus. It was, I mean, that just stood out. It was so nice, so impressive, the howdy bit. But and then they did have something. They had dances, I think, up over the up near this on the back deck of the student union.
Howdy dance.
Howdy dance. That's right. That's what they called it. I tell you, my memory is not what it should be. That's right. Howdy dance.
Kathy's pleased to know that you were such a conscientious student, right? Didn't have time for all the social things.
Didn't have time for that. Yeah.
How about student hangouts? What were the popular places, on or off campus that students hung out at?
Well, the street that's right opposite State of Pine here that goes down through there. There's a couple, I guess, little restaurants or diners. There's a bar down there. There's a bar up here in the corner, Bungs or something like that.
On the campus corner here?
Campus up by the firehouse.
There's the swims over on Knobloch.
Don't remember that one.
Swims, okay.
Remember. I know the one up here in the corner. And there was a barber shop up here in the corner, the little bar. I neglected to say that I think about once a month or every 2 months or so, somebody would have a birthday and we'd go into Tulsa or Oklahoma City or find some reason to get out of town for 4 hours, 5 hours or something just to break it up and see something different. That was the highlights of our stay here, I guess.
Okay. Well, but on campus, is there a place you hung out, like student union, library, different places?
Student union, library.
Do you recall I think they had some dress codes in the library at that time?
They probably did, Jerry, but I can't remember.
So women had to wear dresses, men couldn't wear shorts, or is that?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Of course, I mentioned we lived in the khakis. That's all we know.
What were we talking about sporting events? What was your favorite sport here at Oklahoma State watching?
We like football. We like football. Yeah.
Did you get into watching wrestling?
Oh yes. Oh yes. That was kind of new to us, and at least new to me. But we got where we really enjoyed that. It's almost an art, I guess. It's so different from what you see on television.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we have a friend back in our town here, our hometown, or Casanova, where we live now, who wrestled for Syracuse. He came out of Pittsburgh, and I think what we saw here and the conversations we have with him, we really appreciate the collegiate level of wrestling. I say it's an art, for lack of a better word, but it's very skillful. I forgot that. I was up here once. I was out here for business with a gentleman from New York State Electric and Gas, a power company, and we stayed in Tulsa. And we came up here one snowy night, up and back from Tulsa to see a basketball game. And I can't remember who was coach then, but Hank Iba had stepped down, retired. We came up here in the snow and went back in the snow, saw the game, the place was jumping. It was a good experience.
Was there any construction going on? Were you hear new buildings or anything like that?
There might have been one or two, maybe the arts, business, school of business, or it seems like there were one or two, Jerry, but nothing like now. Absolutely nothing like now.
I wondered about you had one car out of the group. Did very many students have cars in that day?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We had one car where 3 of us came in a car. There'd be another car for 2 or 3 others from our group. We probably had about 3 cars total, but I don't remember anybody driving around other than getting out here. Parked the car. I mean, there was no money.
For gasoline.
Kind of an aside, it's an interest. My senior year here, that was out-of-state tuition, room and board, books, cost less than this weekend cost us. I mean, just to put it in perspective. Just to put it in perspective. We flew out. We're going to drive, but didn't have the time, and it's Kathy has a back problem, so we decided to fly. But when I got thinking about that last week, I guess it was, that just
But it still is a lot of money in your area, though, isn't it?
unbelievable, yeah. But it still was a very good buy, if you will.
Well, Bill, looking back, do you have some favorite memories of your time at Oklahoma State?
Well, I have to start with graduation.
Graduation, your favorite one?
No, I don't have
You throw your hat in the air and said, I'm out of here.
No, I think, again, I don't think we're the typical student because we were so isolated by our own doing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably didn't know any better. We were so focused on trying to get an education and pass and get through here. I remember the sporting events. I remember going to the Newman Club maybe once or twice, 2 or 3 times a month, Sundays. The homecomings. This is what's standing out in my mind now. But again, I haven't given it a whole lot of thought in the last 40, 50 years.
Did you see the baseball team play any that year? In '59 they won the NCAA championship in baseball.
Saw some of that on television, yes.
Did you see any of those play while you were here? Back in '58, '59?
Oh, I thought you were talking about more recently in the College World Series. No, I don't think we saw a whole lot of baseball. I don't think we saw.
So, no, in '59, OSU won the College World Series.
Okay. Okay, I guess I kind of forgot that.
Let me, Bill, backing up, we didn't talk about earlier. Could you talk a little bit about growing up, where you grew up, a little bit about your family and your background as a youth?
Well, we grew up in a place called Johnson City, New York. Johnson City, Binghamton, and Endicott are what is referred to as the Triple Cities. It's on the southern border of New York State, upstate New York. It's about 200 miles out of New York City.
What would probably be the closest town that you might know? I mean, what larger town?
Syracuse would be 75 miles north.
Okay.
Scranton would be 75 miles south. To try and put it in the area.
So you're down close to the Pennsylvania
Very
border.
close. Yeah, within 5-10 miles of the Pennsylvania border.
Okay.
In that valley, Endicott Johnson Shoes was a big employee, about 25,000 employer, about 25,000 employees. IBM was big there. They probably had 25, 30,000. GE had a company there. Link Simulator, aircraft simulators, that type of stuff, they were there. Ansco Film, competitor of Kodak, they were there. And I would say pretty much a working class, family-oriented valley, if you will.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay.
I have a brother Jim 5 years back, a sister Sarah 8 years back, and a brother Matt 19 years back. I think my father went to 11th grade. He worked at IBM and Endicott Johnson, changed from IBM to Endicott Johnson for a couple cents an hour. He was from the Johnson City area. My mother was born in Oneonta, which is up near Cooperstown, Baseball Hall of Fame, about 60 miles out of Binghamton. I guess my parents both met at a place called Spalding Bakeries in Binghamton. Neither one of them finished high school. I was the oldest one coming through school. I went to a 2-year school and worked and paid my way through there. There was no money at that time for anybody. We lived on the north side of this Johnson City. It was heavy, although we were an Irish family, it was heavy Slovak, Polish, Russian. Most of the kids, their parents didn't speak English. The first they spoke English was school, grade school. Okay, so going back there, we were at a high school reunion for Kathy's side earlier this fall. But a lot of those kids did extremely well. Doctors and lawyers and what have you, all pretty much self-made. So it was things are different now than they were then. I mean, it's hard to relate to, very hard to relate to what we experienced coming through and what you see nowadays.
Did you have some jobs as a kid growing up?
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the things you did?
Well, I worked in a clothing store, delivering clothes, different clothes, odd jobs to help a couple tailors. Worked in a gas station, pumped gas, changed oil, changed tires, did minor because there were no dollars coming down. You had to do it on your own. And I don't say that to try and be a martyr in any way. I mean, that's just the way it was. Everybody was in the same boat.
What was your, I guess a two-part question. First of all, what values and principles did you learn growing up that helped you be successful later in life?
Well, I don't know. I think I've always believed to stand up for what you believe, stand up and be counted for what you believe. If you're going to do a job, do it right. I mean, or don't do it. Do it to the absolute best of your ability. Sometimes I get criticized for that in these days, but I mean, I guess just basic stuff there. To do it right. Do it and do it right. And stand up for what you believe in.
So then you indicated after you graduated high school, then you went to a community college there close by.
Broome Community College.
For a couple years. And then did you then go to work with, did you say IBM for a while before you then
in the
came to
community
Oklahoma
college, it was 6 semesters. They were a year was broke up into 3
Trimesters.
trimesters. Thank you.
Okay.
And of those 6 trimesters, you did two co-ops. And I did 2 of my co-ops in IBM, which was very fortunate. You could have done them in GE or Link or wherever, okay? And I did 1 co-op in on the production line, making what they called unit record equipment at the time, punch card unit record equipment.
Punch
Okay?
card, I remember punch card.
And that was very interesting, okay? They were very labor intensive, but interesting. My second co-op was on a maintenance gang, and that was even far more interesting because we got to see the whole Endicott plant layout, IBM Endicott plant layout. In all the buildings, there had to be 30, 40 buildings there. And it was taking care of any electrical maintenance with a switch or a light or electric battery truck or whatever. And so those were both good experiences. And to this day, I think that internships and co-ops are very useful for a student. We were talking this morning when we came out of the restaurant downstairs, we were talking to Tara at the Atherton Hotel there. And I went back and looked at my notes, and Tara was the one I made the reservation through back in the early spring here when it first opened up. But anyway, she was telling us she's a hotel and restaurant management major. She's a senior. And she did an internship at Disney World this past year. And she was telling us about how beneficial that was for her. And I guess I felt the same way when we were coming through. The internships are just, maybe I keep wanting to say things are so different. Television was just breaking in at that point in time. I don't think we spent a lot of time listening to the radio, but you weren't exposed to a lot of things, so you didn't know much about, what does a lawyer do? What does a dentist do? What does an engineer do? You just didn't know. And I think these internships or co-ops provided an introduction where you get some idea what do these different fields do.
Did that influence your decision to go into electrical engineering?
Well, I tell you, I think what influenced my decision to go into electrical engineering the most is that's where the jobs were.
Yeah.
And again, there's another change from today, I think. People tried to get educated where the money was, where you could get a job. At least that's the way I recall it, okay? Whereas I think today, people go where their interests are. And that's not all bad. And if you could combine interest with making money, that's good. But at that time, I think if you look at the background of the parents and the friends and the circles that you were exposed to, you were trying to get a job wherever you could get one. So I think, I wasn't building ham radios or anything in the back of my room anywhere that influenced me to go into electrical engineering. That's where the jobs were. Okay.
We're kind of picking up on that. When you came to Oklahoma State, what do you recall? Which courses, looking back, helped you the most in your development as an engineer? You remember some of the courses, maybe some of the people that taught those?
I'm pretty weak in trying to remember some of that stuff. This was before printed circuit boards. It was all tubes. Before printed circuit boards, there were some power courses. I just think AC, DC circuitry was, and a lot of the math courses gave us some backgrounds that you can apply in other areas. Now, I didn't stick in electrical engineering all my life.
Okay.
I started out when I came back from Oklahoma State. I got into a department in IBM Nowego. IBM had a big commercial plant in Endicott, New York, and they had something called Federal Systems in Owego, New York, which is about 10, 15 miles west of Endicott.
How do you spell that? You said in Owego?
O-W-E-G-O.
Okay.
O-W-E-G-O.
Okay.
And that's a town, that's a little town about 10, 15 miles west of Endicott, New York. Okay. Owego is part of Federal Systems Division for IBM, and they did work for the government. And when I got in there, they were building B-52 bomb navigation systems. They went later, while I was still in there, went into some of the early space programs. But I got into a department that was analog to digital, digital analog conversion. Okay, and everything that was built for this B-52 thing was building what they called beer cans. They were about this big, about this long. They had cannon connectors on the end of them. And the whole system, the whole navigation computer system for the B-52 was put together in these cans with the idea that they had something called go-no-go test equipment, or if something failed, they would put one or two of these cans, or three, whatever, onto a go-no-go tester, trying to find the bad can, replace that can right on the spot for a quick fix to keep going, and the can would go back for repair or discarded. Okay. But I worked there 3 years, and then when I was here doing the graduate stuff, I was taking data processing courses primarily. Okay. And I transferred from IBM Nowego into the IBM Glendale lab. And that was the commercial lab for the mid-size commercial systems. And I got into a department that did diagnostic programming. I first got into software development and diagnostic programming, tested computers before they went out to the field, and also the field engineers, customer engineers, once you're in the field, they use these diagnostic programs to help in their repair when there's any glitch with that, okay? And it was there that I realized, I mean, you think back and I feel so naive on some of this stuff. When I worked in IBM and Federal Systems, there was no big shipping dock that I recalled. These systems were developed kind of on a onesie basis, twosie basis. I don't recall any high volume. Of course, I was in the engineering side. There was a manufacturing facility there. When I got into the Glendale lab, I got my first introduction into commercial data processing, which I didn't think I'd like. The Owego thing was very exciting because, as I said, it was in the early days of the space stuff, and it was just very exciting. IBM had a way to make you think that wherever you were, that was the hub of IBM, or the hub of the world. It was spirit of core type of thing. Very good. Okay, so I get into the Glendale lab. It was diagnostic programming. I found that very interesting, and from there I found out there's field engineers and everything that works out in the field to support the customers. So after a couple, 3 years of that, I went into the IBM branch office in Endicott as a systems engineer. Now that's a technical support for the marketing arm. And I guess I did that, I don't know, 10, 12 years, and thoroughly enjoyed it, where you got out to see multiple customers, you got to see multiple styles of management, get to see objectives of companies, problems of companies, and it was a whole new awakening for me, I guess, as opposed to being focused on a specific engineering or software development testing program. So I was in system engineering support for marketing for 10, 12 years, I guess, and then I got into marketing itself. And each step just kind of broadened the view of the world, if you will. And I thoroughly enjoyed marketing when I got in there. I just enjoyed working with people, working with executives. It took me a couple of years to get comfortable calling on an executive like yourself, okay? And you find out that everybody is trying to provide for their family, or they're just decent people. They're worrying about things. We all worry about the same stuff no matter what level we're at, okay? And so my years after that were spent in the IBM marketing field, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just thoroughly enjoyed it, and was fortunate to be quite successful in that area.
What level did you wind up before you retired?
Just a senior marketing manager.
Senior marketing.
Or senior marketing rep. Senior marketing rep. Okay.
In what year did you retire, Bill?
I left IBM in 1991. I had 35 years. 3 of the years were the 3 years I spent here. they gave me credit because I was on educational leave. So I had 35 years with IBM. And then I went to work for Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation, which is a power company that covers about 60% of New York State. And I spent another 8 years with them in the information technology area, primarily in budgeting and planning. Okay. So altogether I had 43 years in industry.
What kind of making the connection between your time at Oklahoma State University and your career? You'd indicated earlier that you felt your preparation here academically stood you in good stead for your career. In what ways do you think it helped you? Of course, the technology changes, and what you're doing a few years later wasn't the same when you were on campus. But methodologies in terms of approach, was it helpful to you, your courses you had here?
Very definitely, very definitely. I think the engineering approach, the math and the science courses and the methodology that's used in engineering, I have always thought sets you up pretty well for most anything you want to go into. And I have to credit that to Oklahoma State. We've got some very good, solid education right here.
Did you stay in contact with Dr. Nader, or were you on Ruth's Christmas card list?
We were, yes, we were. We were. And I think pretty much on an annual basis we would be in contact with him. Then he passed ahead of her, I believe, and she continued it for a few years after that.
Yes.
Okay.
She was a wonderful lady.
They both were. They both were. I think, I'm not sure you see that type of thing today. Maybe you do, maybe I'm not being fair to everybody, but they certainly were dedicated teachers. I guess we never thought of them as doctors or professors, but they would just make sure everybody was doing the maximum they could.
They're two great people. Both those had tremendous followings, and people really highly appreciate and value those two individuals. So it's great to have a connection with those people.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
Well, have you had a chance to remain connected to Oklahoma State, Bill, through the years?
Only through the Alumni Association.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was telling you the other day, maybe I shouldn't comment, I don't know, but when we decided to come out here this year, we made a reservation at the hotel as soon as the first day was. So, but since that time, we've had a lot going on in the family and at our house, and we're starting to wonder, should we really make this trip or not? Okay. And finally decided to do that. So now it's a 3 weeks ago, I guess. We haven't got any football tickets. Okay. So I just called the alumni general number, and I spoke to Joyce and Joy. Can I get tickets? She said that we don't carry tickets anymore. We don't have tickets. We have to go through the ticket office. So first time we called, it was the second deck, and it was, I think, $100. Next time I called a week later, it was the third deck, and it was $125 or something like that. And so I went back to Joy and Joyce again, and they said, well, you can talk to Joel. He was Pistol Pete at one time. He might be able to help you. And Joel was very nice, but he said, no, we can't get any tickets. So somebody gave me the name of Larry, okay, Larry Shell. And I don't remember reading about Larry Shell, but I called him, and he couldn't be nicer, okay? And he says, here's my cell phone number, so you can get back to me. He says, I don't think I can catch anything for you, but I'll try, okay? So he said, I'll call you Thursday night or Friday night, and no call came. And I thought, well, I'll call Monday morning, and I'll just get a ticket wherever it is, in the end zone or wherever, and we'll pay whatever we have to pay. So I guess it was 5 after 10 our time, must have been 5 after 9 your time here. And Larry calls, and he's found 2 tickets, but they're only around the 50-yard line, and they're down with their seat backs. So I had to be a smart aleck, and I said, is that the best you can do for us? And fortunately, he chuckled and laughed, and then I made it very clear I was trying to be kidding and trying to be funny with him, and thanked him profusely. I'm just shocked that he could come up with something like that.
Have you had a chance to look at the campus yet?
We drove around late yesterday afternoon a little bit, and as I said before, it looks torn up, to be quite honest. Okay, it's not neat and orderly as I recall it even 10 years ago, but I just can't get over the construction. I just can't get over the construction. We signed up for a golf cart tour. I hope it's got a cover on it with it rain. But I'm looking forward to that today, just to have somebody tell us, I guess, what's this and what's that. But I just can't get over the number of buildings. I mean, it's just awesome.
Growing.
I can't believe it.
You need to come back about every 3 or 4 years, or you kind of miss the new wave of development.
I guess. And didn't I read something like $1 billion development?
Oh, yeah, they're looking at something like $800 million over the next 15, 20 years or
Yes.
so in terms of renovation and new construction on campus.
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting up close to $1 billion.
Yes,
And they got the $1 billion campaign going.
we just got that in the mailing just before we left home. Yeah.
Well, what does it give you pride as an alumnus of Oklahoma State University to see it grow and to see the new enhancements and development?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
You know, we've always been proud of Oklahoma State. And we always called it Oklahoma State since we left. I guess at Oklahoma A&M, I think that must have changed about the first semester, or certainly the first year that we were out here.
You came here in the fall of 1957.
Yes.
In July 1 of 1957 was the name change.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, so it was actually before we got here.
Mhm.
Okay,
Couple, 2-3 months before you got here.
okay.
What, looking back, Bill, and your experiences, and you said you had a unique kind of experience. Is there anything you'd have wished you'd have done differently as a student in your experience?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier, Jerry. I wish we took the time to interface with some of the local students. I just think, I think we missed an opportunity there because I don't know quite how to say this, but I think you'll know what I'm saying. The people here in the central part of their country are a little bit different than they are on the East Coast, and they're a little bit different than they are on the West Coast. And it's, we have a nephew who lives in Chicago, and you can see the difference between the East Coast and Chicago, and I think you can see more of the difference here. And I think we missed an opportunity by not taking the time to join some of the clubs here and develop some friendships and make it a lifetime deal. But as I said, we were all focused about work and getting a job and making a living and surviving type of thing.
I understand.
So I think we missed that. I really think that's the one thing I have a regret for.
Bill, is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about your OSHA experience or that you'd share with us that we haven't talked about?
Well, I don't know. Kathy and I have 4 kids, son and 3 daughters. We've got 12 grandchildren. They're spread around. Our kids, we've got 1 in Raleigh, 3 up in the Albany area, which is the capital of New York State, so about 2.5, 3 hours from us. So I don't know if there's a great deal we haven't covered. We covered a lot of ground. I feel bad that we couldn't give you more for our experience here, but as I keep saying, it was different. Different times. We came out of different backgrounds. And although we gained an awful lot from the university, I think that was our base. I said before, I think the engineering curriculum, be it we happen to be electrical engineers, and some of the guys, for the most part, they stayed in the electrical side of it. But I think the math courses, a lot of math, as I recall, the methodologies, I used that throughout my career.
Right.
Everything I did with IBM is of course, it was engineering at first, but then when I get into program development and then when I get into technical support and interfacing with customers, everything I did was pretty much based on how do you break a problem down, and what are the alternatives, and how do you solve them, and what are the options, and how do you communicate that to the customer, and how do you tie it all together. I think that all comes from the base that we got here. So it was a great experience.
It's good to have you back on campus, Bill.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
You betcha.